This is trial and error because I have a pair of industrial crimpers, and obviously this is my first 6-gauge connector that I've used. This crimp isn't enough. I'm not going to pull that connector off because I know if I do, that's it. It's done. So basically what I'm going to do, I won't be able to get it back on, and I just wasted a buck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the die again in the crimper, and I'm going to try out the next smaller size and see if that that crimps it good enough to now the one thing, this crimper here, let me see if I can focus on it, if the camera will focus on it. Okay, this is a big industrial crimper, and that's what you need for your battery ends, especially when you're dealing with cable that big. I mean, here's the cable. Here's the size cable we're working on now from the APU. These are our main battery cable connectors here, and these are probably I would say 6 or 8-aught. It might say under there, but I can't read it. But in order to do this, you need to go. Now, it took me, and I kid you not, yesterday, 6 electrical contractor stores. And I like going in, taking what my project in there. Hey, I need a tool that'll crimp this wire. And as opposed to trying to do stuff over the phone, because, you know, if you're not explaining it in industrial electrician terms, they're not going to understand what you're saying. So you take in what you need and you tell them what you want to do with it. And in this case, this electrical store in Knoxville, industrial electrical store in Knoxville, had this as a loaner tool. And all I did was left my information. They gave me the tool, and I'm going to bring it back, and it's no charge. So it's a great little operation they've got. Awesome, especially for guys like us, owner-operators, trying to do it ourselves. Anyway, I'm going to pause the video again, change the die, and we will try again. Okay. I'm back again. We're back again. Change the die. Now, just so you all know, these number 6s or 6-gauge connectors, they are actually, and I'm going to set the phone down and crimp this now. But let me point out here that I have my connector back in position, the exact same position that I'm going to crimp it, because these form a diamond crimp or a square crimp. And, you know, I'm not going to force anything. I'm just going to shrink what we had, you know, the next step smaller. Okay, now when you're dealing with number 6 wire, they do make a hand crimper. Most of your standard hand crimpers will do a number 6. Okay, now I like what we ended up with here. We have our connector crimped on correctly, properly. We have the correct connector, correct diameter connector for the diameter of wire. Now what we're going to do is we have our dielectric grease in there taking up. What we're trying to do is there's no more oxygen left in there. There's no more air left in that connector, and moisture, we hope, will not be able to penetrate that. Now our last step is going to be heat shrink tubing to ensure, to help ensure that moisture and corrosive materials do not get into our connection. There we go. We've got our heat shrink connector there. Obviously I've left it long on the wire end, and I've brought it up completely over the rounded part. And that just, again, that helps hold the heat shrink tubing in place. Then we just use the heat gun. See if we can get this on video. always do it all the way around your wire. I always start with the connection side and work my way back. That way it's able to pull itself tight and snug around your connector as it shrinks back the sleeve. And there we have what I would call now a properly terminated connector. Now there is the one last step that I did not do, and I didn't do it because I have the proper crimping tool, and it's not actually a step. But you could assemble this connector using solder, but you're also, to heat up this much copper and fill that with solder, you're going to burn the sheathing of your wire, damage the sheathing of your wire all the way back. You know, as far as that heat goes back, you'll melt the sheathing of your wire, and that's not a good thing if you were to solder these connectors. And these are not solder-on connectors. Solder-on connectors are configured a little differently, and they actually allow you to get solder inside of them. These are a crimp-on connector, you know, and if you fill them with the dielectric grease and push the end of your wire in, you do a really good job of keeping the corrosives out. Now this connector should outlast, this end should outlast my APU. And now I'm going to do the same thing again here on my positive side, and then move on with the project. But I hope that helps you guys out a little bit.